Hey guys, how you going? Cool, just pop in the chat if you can hear me and see that big orange mastering form building screen, and then we'll be good to get started, get up and running. Perfect, thanks Sarah. Also, while I have you guys here just at the start, feel free to pop in at the start anything that you need me to cover today if you've got any specific questions, and I'll try and weave it into the webinar, or I'll just answer the questions at the end in the Q&A section as well. So just pop them in and then I'll be able to cover it from there. Cool, awesome. All right, so I'm just going to get started. So a few of you may have seen a similar webinar a few months ago around mastering form building. So basically what I'm going to be going over is how to build forms from scratch and then customize some of our forms that are already in there as well. So when you have your account, especially if either you're new or you haven't actually made any changes to it yet, you've been focusing just to the app side, it's good to jump in, have a look at how the forms have been set up. And then today we'll be able to look into how you can schedule them to suit your business. And then if you need to change the content within those forms, you can change that. And I'll show you how to do all of that today. So just to get started, I'll just give you a brief little intro into the form building side. So this is all done on the admin console. So there's the two sides of Site App Pro. You've got the admin console, which you log into on your computer or web browser, and then you've got the mobile app side. So that's where your staff will then go in and fill in those forms when they're out on site or out doing a job, and that's where you'll get all that health and safety information. So what you'll have when you do the form building is I just thought I'd give you guys a little bit of an intro into what the different types of questions or different form building tools look like when you're on the phone. That way you've just got a little bit of an idea when we build the form on the computer today, what it's going to look like, and then I will show you what it'll look like at the end of the session today anyways. Cool, so what you can see here is there's the question button. So this is a button that you'll click when you're building the form, which I'll show you how to get to in a second. And the question button, when you add it into a form, it looks like this one up here. And this is what your staff or your team will use to actually answer questions and add information to the form when they're on site. So questions can have, I think it's like up to 30, 35 or so. We've got that many answer types. So that's things like yes, no, just a tick box. You can have a short text box with the ability to add information in there. You can do multi-choice, so heaps of options like that. So that's what you'll use for that. And you'll see that this one has the required toggle turned on. So they have to fill in that form and answer that question in order to save that form fully. Otherwise, if they miss that question, they'll only be able to save that form as a draft. So that way you can easily identify from the admin console if they've actually completed that form or not. So you can follow them up about it if they haven't. The next one is that collapsible panel, which is this one here, and that is the yellow box in the form. So what this is used for adding information for your team to see. You'll see it's got a little header at the top saying this is a collapsible panel. So you can pop a little bit of a header or a title into what the information is about. And then when you click on it, if you've got quite a bit of information to add, it'll show you a bit of a preview where it says, here's the explanation. When you click on it, it'll then show you the whole expanded text. So that way, if you've got quite a lot of information to add to a form, you can add it and it won't take up the whole form. So it won't fill it out completely. You'll be able to hide it until they click on it to see more. So people use this for like, if they add in any policies or any information on how to do the form or any information about the health and safety that you guys might do, pop it in there, then the staff will be able to read it on the form before they start it or midway through the form. The next one is this section header here, and that's what this little icon is. This matches up with the blue one here that says this is a section header. And what this is just like a title, or as it says, a section header. So it separates different sections in the forms. You can use this for advanced form building, such as the repeating sections, which I will show you how to make today. But it can basically just be used if you want a little bit more formatting in the form. So you can set up different sections just to separate it and make it look nice and clear for your staff to read. Finally, we've got the instruction text, and this one's simply just a text box. So it's that light gray one there. It's not showing too well through the computer screen, but it is pretty much just a blank text box so you can add information in. So these tools here are more there to add information or to format the form. The question is the one that you'll mainly use to get the information out of it. Cool. I hope that makes sense from the form building side. The other thing we've got is just from the app side is this Blue Notes icon here. This isn't added through the form, but it is an option to just add observations or follow-up actions to a form. And that is something we talk about with some of the answer types as well. So that's what a Blue Note is there. Perfect. Let me know if you've got any questions. Please just keep firing them through as well. I'm happy to have a chat, make it a little more conversational so you guys can feel like kind of working together to do this form building side as well. So now what we're going to do is jump straight into the computer side. So I'll just share my screen across there, and you should now be able to see the forms page on the admin console. So for those of you that don't know, to get onto this page, you need to be an admin or a manager, and that's the user access that you need. You then need to go through our website or find the my.siteappro.co.nz link and click the login button. From there, you log in. So this is through your web browser on preferably your laptop or computer. From there, it'll automatically open you up onto your dashboard, and I've just jumped straight down to the forms page. So a quick little insight from what we can see here. These are all of the forms we've given you guys just by default. We try to give you quite a few forms just so then hopefully we can avoid you guys having to build too much, and you can more use what we've given you and customize it to suit you guys, or you can turn off what we've given you so then you don't have so many forms that you guys might not use. So just looking at this page, what we can see from left to right, the SAP orange icon just means that it's a SiteApp Pro default form. And so that's a form that we've given you guys. If you've customized the form or you have built your own, it will no longer have that SiteApp logo there. So that way you know you've made changes to it, and it'll just have a blank little box there. The ID you guys can probably just completely ignore. It's just the number of the form that has been made. You've then got the name of the form going across here. The red triangle does mean that the form has been turned off, but I'll show you how to do that in just a second. Form type is just like the category or the type of form that it is. If it's a SiteApp Pro default form, you can't actually change those. Sorry, but you can change them if you have a custom form. The scheduling is a really big one to look at first. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click the scheduled little button up the top here, the little header. And I'm just going to click it twice so that I can filter all of the scheduled forms to come up to the top. So what you can see is either there's quite a few blank ones. Those don't run off any specific schedule. So their schedule at the moment is set to none. And you'll see that a lot of them have this gray tick down the side. And that means that they're anytime forms, or as you can see, the little ad hoc title comes up as well. So that means that they're ad hoc forms. Those are the forms that you access on the app by clicking the orange plus button. And they're forms that can be filled in any time of the day, as many times as you need to. So they're really good for forms if you need multiple people on one site to fill in this form. That way you don't have any problems with overriding if it's a scheduled form. The other option we've got here is, so we've got the pre-start, which is set to daily by default. So you can see that it's scheduled to show up at 7 a.m. and it's going to show up on Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturdays on the Today tab on the app. What that means is you get one of these forms per site per day. So it works, scheduled forms are perfect if you have like a project manager or a site manager or a foreman or someone who's heading up that site, and they're filling in that form on behalf of the team that's there. So they'll come into work that day, hold a pre-start meeting in the morning, they'll fill in the form on behalf of everyone there. So not everyone will fill in a form themselves. that's why scheduled forms are good for that kind of setup on site. If you want to have everyone filling in their own individual form on site, this option won't work for you, as this one is the one form per site. So say you had 3 people on site, they all need to fill in a pre-start. The first person would go and fill in their daily scheduled pre-start, and then that form will already be complete for the day. So if anyone else tried to fill it in, they'd be overriding that person's data. So that's just a good thing to keep in mind. There is another option in terms of pre-starts and site inductions that are more user specific, and I'll show you those in just a second. The other option is then weekly forms. So that's exactly the same as daily forms, but it just shows up once a week on the This Week tab on the app, and then same for monthly forms. So there's a couple of different options there. I'm just going to show you how to customize the form to start with, and then we'll look into a few different options. But what you want to do when you first get into your account is just have a look at all the forms on the app, have a play around with how it'll work for you guys, and then jump onto the computer and see how you want to change it. If you want to change maybe the schedule, maybe you want to work purely off ad hoc forms and just use that ad hoc list, or you want to just work purely off scheduled forms. So you'll just need to see how it works for you guys, but we've given you a couple of different options to hopefully be a bit flexible around that as well. Cool. So say we want to edit or customize our Toolbox Talk form. I'm just going to revert this one. So at the moment, you can see this form has been edited, and because it was a Site App Pro default form, I can revert it back to its original copy by clicking the arrow on the right-hand side there and clicking yes. So that takes it back to the Site App default form. I'm now going to click the pencil button to open the form, and this opens the back end of the form. From here, what you can see is the form settings are all up the top here. If it's a default form, most of these are pretty set in stone, so you can't really do too much around changing it. What you can do is add an email recipient. So if I add my email in here and hit enter, that means that every time this form's completed on any site across your account, that form will be automatically emailed to me as a PDF copy. So that can be really good if you've got some forms just of high interest, or you've got like a incident reporting form or anything like that that you need the team to fill in. That way, once it's done, you'll be notified straight away because it'll come straight to your email inbox. The other thing that you'd want to focus on is that form schedule that we've been talking about already. So at the moment, you'll see it says none right now. So that means it's not scheduled to any specific daily, weekly, or monthly. But it's just showing at the moment as an ad hoc form, so it can be accessed anytime. So for my site, for example, I know that they're going to do a Toolbox Talk once a week, so I'm going to go and change it to weekly, and I don't need it to be ad hoc, otherwise I'm just doubling up there. Oops, take that one off. Cool. From there, you scroll down and you've got the form design section. So this is basically everything under form design is what they can see from the app. So if I click on it, it expands each question. You'll see the numbers are down the side in terms of the order of how they show up on the app. You can then from there go and backspace the text if you need to, so you can change it to anything that you'd like the text to be. You can also delete the question by clicking the bin icon if that question's just not something that you need in the form at all. You can also then change the answer types to suit you. So that's what we were talking about at the start around a text box. You've got numeric or phone number. You can log the date or time, multi-choice, star rating, add image, signature capture. There's heaps of different ones in there. To rearrange the form, you can also just click on one of the questions, and it's just working by holding down your click button and dragging and dropping the different questions to change them around. So I'll move that one back down to number 2, and it's now been reordered there. So if you want to add a question to the form, what you want to do is go down. So say I want to add a question underneath number 3. So I want to add a question for number 4. I'll click on number 3. So that green line shows up next to that question. So that means that's the question that I'm working on right now. I'm then going to click the question icon on the side here. If I click on that, it'll now show underneath number 3 and make it number 4 out of 12 because we're adding a new question. Cool. From there, I'm just going to ask, is there anything the team needs to discuss about emergency procedures? Just for example, so you can add any question in here that you guys might usually do in your pre-start form. You can then add a prompt that can give them a little bit more guidance around what they want to add in that question. So you can give them some guidance around different questions that might come up quite often, or you can actually just take the prompt away completely because you don't have to have it. From there, I can either have a multi-line text if I know they're going to write quite a lot of information, or I could also even use our answer type that's called no, yes, plus reason. How this one works is it's a yes, no answer type or a no, yes answer type. So they'll see the option to click either yes or no. But if they click yes, they'll be forced to add a blue note or a reason, which is what I showed you at the start of the webinar as well. So if they click yes, they'll be forced to add some text in a reason column. They'll then be able to explain, what the parts of the emergency procedures that they might want to discuss, and that'll kind of add as an additional note to the form, and you can set it up so that users in your account can be notified when these reasons have been added. So I'm also going to then make this one required, so they have to answer this question before saving the form. When you are form building and you might be building quite a repetitive form, you could use the duplicate question button as well. So if I click that, it's just going to duplicate that whole question and add it to number 5. And that way, maybe you're using the yes, no, reason, answer type the whole time. You can just then change that text to what you need it to be. And then it just saves you a little bit of time from having to reformat each question. I'm just going to delete that one for now. Awesome. From there, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in a section header, and I'm going to make what's called a repeating section at the bottom of the form. So if I click on number 10, I want to have a nice employee sign off at the end of my toolbox talk. So at the moment, it's going to ask everyone to add a signature. So say the foreman is holding the toolbox talk meeting, and they're then going to go, yeah, cool guys, we're all done for the day or for the morning. I'm going to get you guys to pass the app around and add your signature to the form. What happens with this is usually it's really hard to read people's signatures. So you might want to add in like a staff select option as well, so they can select their name first and then add their signature. So what we're going to do is add the ability to repeat both of those questions in a section. So the first person will go in, select their name, add their signature. The next person will be able to click repeat, and they'll then be able to repeat those 2 questions themselves and keep passing it around the form until they're done. So I'm going to click onto number 10, just so then we can add the next tool underneath number 10. I'm going to add that section header here. And so that's that blue one that we looked at on the app. I'm then just going to call this sign off. What I'm going to do is I'm going to click allow multiple answers here. And that's going to allow us to add this repeating section. So this means that everything underneath this section header here is going to be repeated as a section. I'm then going to add one more question. So that's going to show up as number 13. And I'm going to say, select your name. I'm then going to use the answer type staff list. And this brings up a list of, where is it? There we are. A list of your staff from that team and users page. I'm also going to make this one required. I'm going to close it and I'm going to drag it so it goes above the signature option. Cool. So now what you can see is on the app, they'll be able to repeat the last 3 questions of the form. But what we've got at the bottom is a question that says everyone present has signed. So I don't actually want them to answer that each time they go around and fill in their name and signature. I only want maybe the foreman to add that, answer that question at the end to confirm everyone has signed. So what I'm going to do is stop the repeating section after 2 questions. So I'm going to click on number 13. I'm going to add a section header to end the repeating section. And this is just going to say end of sign off. So that all that does by adding a section header at the end is close that repeating section off. So only these 2 questions in here will be the ones that are being repeated. If you don't have that repeating section here, say I move it down to there, that means these 3 questions will be repeated, or if I move it up to there, that means only that one question will be the one being repeated. It doesn't matter what the text is, it's just the fact that you've got that section header there to close it off. Cool, so I'm going to save that form. Does anyone have any questions around how I did that, or anything around the toolbox form for altering this form? Just pop it in the chat or the Q&A and I can go through and answer those questions. But the main thing that I actually might show you as well is, quick tip is we find Google Chrome is the best when you are building forms or just using Site App Pro on the admin console. But just so you know, if you do get stuck, if you might not be able to find this question like tool builder on the side. So what you can do is click those 3 dots in the top right corner of your Google Chrome, or if you use a different web browser, you'll be able to do it in a different way. But say I zoom in quite close, you'll see that this has moved down to the bottom. So if it's not on the side, it just depends on your screen size and how far you've zoomed in. It could be down the bottom as well. If you find that you can't actually save because it's so zoomed in, this does happen a little bit. Just you see here, you can't really click that save button. Just go in and zoom out. Cool. The final thing around form building that I will let you know is if you can't save, you'll see that, say I try to save right now, but that save button's gray. You'll see that the question that has the problem is highlighted in red. And so you'll see sometimes what happens is you accidentally double click a question or a collapsible panel and you haven't added in that required text. So you'll either then delete that question out of the form or add the text in that was needed. From there, you can see I can now save the form because it's all good to go. Perfect. So that is customizing one of our already existing forms. I'll show you what that looks like in a second, but I'm just going to quickly jump in and build a form from scratch from the top. So how you can do this is just by clicking that orange plus icon in the top left corner here. So this is now giving us a form that we can build from scratch right from the top of the form. From start to bottom, you'll see attribution. You don't need to use this one. This is just quite optional, but what this is just a bit of text or information that you can add to the top of your form. What some people use this for is for staff training. So say you've got like a YouTube link that you want people to watch, or maybe you've got an image you want to add to the form. You could add that image to a cloud sharing software. So say like iCloud, Dropbox, Google Drive, things like that, and get the shareable link. You could then go in here and go view this image before completing the form, and then you could link the shareable link in there. And so how the attribution shows is it's just kind of almost pinned to the top of the form, and it just sits there at the top from the app side. So I'm not going to add one of those in today. Actually, I might just add in this is an attribution. So then you can see what it looks like from the app side of things when we look at it. Form statistic group, this relates to those buckets that show on the dashboard. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you what they are. So what happens is if I pop this in, say, the toolbox talks or the incidents form, say I'm making an incident form, I'll pop it in the incident form statistic group. And what that means is each time the form is then completed, it'll add up into that incidents bucket at the top there. So it'll add a number 1 or 2 if 2 incident forms have been completed in the last 7 days. So it's just a quick little like tally or insight into kind of key topics that you guys want to keep an eye on. Cool. So if we just go back, so you click that plus button to build a form, just going to pop that attribution back in there. And this one, I might actually just leave the form statistic group as none. If you want to make a quiz, you can tick this button up here. And what this means is you can have a quiz for your staff. So if it's for training or you just want to, you know, make sure they were listening in the last meeting that you guys did, you could pop some little pop quiz topics in there. And what this does is when you build the form, you only get 2 answer types. So you either get yes, no, or multi-choice. And once you add them in, you get to select the correct answer. So when your staff go through and do the form, they'll be able to get a percentage score of how they went when they were filling in that form. Cool. For today's example, we're not going to use a quiz, so we're not going to tick that one off. Perfect. From there, we're going to make like a vehicle pre-start kind of form. So say you want to do maybe like vehicle checks, you want all your staff to go through and make sure their vehicle's up to date. You want to keep an eye on when their WAF and rego might be due and things like that. So I'm going to just call this a vehicle. Oops. Can be like a vehicle. We might just do vehicle check for today. Oops, open that one up. So that's the name of the form. That's what they'll see from the app. Description is just for back-end purposes. So it's purely just for you to see from the admin console what this form is about. So you don't need to use that one if you don't want to. Email recipients, we looked at that one before. Form schedule for this one, I'm actually going to make it just an ad hoc form. So I'm going to keep that schedule to none. And I'm going to have this ad hoc toggle on. That way they can access it anytime and the staff can do it when they need to, and multiple staff can do it in one day without overriding each other's data. Perfect. So from here, we're going to select a category, and I am going to select, you could either make it like an inspection, you can make it just a task if you like, you could do others. It does say select all that apply, but I'd recommend just selecting as little as possible because then it helps with your reporting a little bit as well. And it also means on the ad hoc list, these are all the categories that it will show up under. So say you select, task, inspection, reporting, and others, it'll show up 3 times on that ad hoc list. So I find for clarity, it's best just to keep it just to the one. From there, we can add in a question. So I'm going to add a question in here, and we're just going to go and make a vehicle checklist. So check your vehicle, or we can just even say, check your vehicle is in good condition. And from there, we could even use like a multi-choice answer type. So these are the things that they could then go through and check. So I'm going to do multi-choice, multi-select. That way they can select multiple. So say they want to go in and check that windscreen wipers are working. They could then go and do indicators are working. You could go front and back. What else? You could check tire pressure is good. You could also do lots of things. Windscreen cleaner is full, and so on. So you'd keep building that up. No cracks in windscreen. Seat belts working, etc. So they'll then be able to go through and go, yep, these are all looking good. This vehicle check's done for this first question. I've then gone and made that one required. I find it's easier when you're building just to click on it to reduce it, so then it doesn't take up too much of the form. But that's just purely personal preference. From there, what you're going to do is go in and add some other questions. So I might want to see, actually what I'm going to do is add a bit of information. So I'm going to add a collapsible panel, and I'm going to say vehicle, check information. I'm then just going to explain that we need 30 days notice of when your WAF and or rego is due. That way we can book it in, kind of thing. So they'll be able to read that on the app. From there, I'm going to be able to add in what when is WAF due. They can then go in and add in the date. You can then go in and do, we'll change that up there. When is rego due? Add a date. You could even add in a question saying, is this due in the next 30 days? You could then use that yes, no reason answer type. So I'll go down in here and I'll go no, yes reason. That way, if it is due in the next 30 days, they'll have to explain what date. So I could even pop in here, if yes, what date is it due? And then if you set up to receive those Blue Note notifications, you can receive the notification when they add that reason. So I might even go and click the repeat, duplicate that question, and add that one underneath the WAF as well. We'll pop that one there. There we are. Finally, what I'm going to use, the last little bit in this form, is the conditional section. So I'm going to add that one there, and I'm going to say, if there are any, let's actually just go into, are there any issues that you've found? Cool. What this conditional section does is it looks like one of those blue section headers, but it has a little yes tick box next to it. So if they don't tick yes, they won't be able to see anything below the form, and they can just save the form off as normal. But if they tick yes, what they'll be able to do is it'll reveal some more questions for them to answer. That way, you don't have to have questions that are unanswered in the form. And by default, if they don't answer yes, it will by default answer that question as no anyways. So if there are, you'd just be able to say, please explain issues that you have found. And I'd make that a multi-line text box and make it required. Cool, so that's that form in there. So what we're now going to do is try and share my phone to the screen. Fingers crossed it all works, and have a look at how that looks from the app side of things. Cool, is everyone still okay? You're still with me? Perfect, good. From here, I hope everyone can see the phone. Give me a little wave if you can see the phone, or just pop in the chat to say, yep, all good. But what you can now see is the app side of it. So if I click this tick button here, you'll see that there are those user specific forms on the app. These are the ones that don't run off a schedule, and all they'll have is, these ones are the ones that each user gets per person. Those weren't the ones that we edited today. I'm just going to click up here, make sure everyone can see in that chat. All good. So thanks, guys. From here, you've got the pre-start form across the front, and this is the one that we did look at earlier today. We didn't customize this one, but this is the one that's scheduled for daily that everyone's able to do when the foreman does it. So they'll do it all as a team. So I'm now going to go across to the This Week tab, as that's where our toolbox talk was scheduled. I just need to refresh my phone. There we are. And we'll now have that toolbox talk show up in here. So if I click on it, and I'll be able to go through the answers again on behalf of the team. Not everyone will do this. Are there any health and safety issues we need to be aware of? No. Have job plans been reviewed? Yep. Are there any outcomes? No. Is there anything the team needs to discuss about safety procedures or emergency procedures? This is the one we added in, and I'll tick yes. It's then going to force me to pop in a reason, and I'll just say evacuation process needs work. Please send more info. You can also then add a follow-up action if you'd like to assign a task to someone. So say you actually need someone in particular to send more info to the team around evacuation process. They can then go and assign it to a specific user. So say I then want to assign it to Greg. He'll then get a notification once I've saved that form to send out that information to the team. Cool, there's all these other questions that then aren't required. And then if we get to the bottom, you'll now see the sign off section. So you've got select your name. So I'll go in and select Sam at the top here. I'll then sign off at the bottom. I'll then be able to pass that form to the person next to me, and then click add new section, which is only shows up because we did that repeating section. Then you get those next questions again. So select your name. We'll say it's Dom, signature, and then they'll be able to pass that one off to the next person. They'll then get it straight back up to the foreman. The foreman will be able to go, yep, that's all good today. And they'll be able to sign off the form under their name. So super simple that way. And this is what Greg would have seen if he got that follow-up action, that little reminder there. Finally, we'll go and click that ad hoc button. So that's that orange plus button in the bottom right corner. And we'll find that form we just made for the vehicle check. So that's up the top here. If it is a form that we use quite often, I can click that favorite icon, the star icon, to pin it up to the top, and I can click on the form there. So you can see there's that attribution at the top here. That's what it'll look like. Check your vehicles in good condition. So I'll go, yep, those ones are. It has a crack in the windscreen, so I'm just going to leave that one and tick the rest that are all good. I can click on the vehicle check information to see more of it if it had quite a lot of text in it. We'll then say, when is WAF due? I'll go 1st of May, click the tick. Is it due in the next 30 days? No. When is Rego due? I'm going to say that's due on the 31st of March. Is that due in the next 30 days? Yes. And that was due on the 31st of the 3rd, 2021. There we are. Final little bit is that conditional section. So are there any issues that you've found? If there isn't, I can click the save final button and just ignore that question. Since I did have leave that there was something wrong with the windscreen, I can click yes. It'll then add that question for me to explain what I found. And I'll just say crack in windscreen may need to be fixed. I could also even add a photo of that crack, and that just shows up automatically with questions once you've started filling them in. Save that form. I'll then click Save Final at the bottom to save it off, and then fill in my 4-digit PIN code. Cool, so that shows you how to use the app side of things from the phone side. If you did decide that you wanted to use the, just going to take that one out. If you did decide you wanted to use those user-specific forms, the ones that show up in the check-in ones, so you want everyone to be able to fill in their own pre-start and on-site induction, you'll just need to go to the forms page and make sure you find that form here. So it's called Personal Pre-Start. If I click pencil next to it, you'll see that I've got no option here to schedule it to daily. So this form is only able to show up in that check-in button. And these ones, every user gets their own one of these per day. So you can then go and customize that form as you like, and you'll be able to then turn off that pre-start form that is scheduled for daily. The final thing I'll show you really quickly is just that pre-start option. So if I did want to turn it off, I'll go and click the pencil button to open up the form. I will then go and change the form schedule from daily to none. And then you just have to turn off the toggle. So it has to be none, has to be gray. Then when I save it, it shows up with the red triangle next to it. So best thing is once you know everything that you've that you want your staff to fill in is ready on the app, then go through and turn off everything else that they're not going to use so it looks nice and clean and it's all good for them to use from there. Awesome. So that pretty much takes us through to the end of the webinar today. If you've got any questions, pop them through in the chat just to let me know. But while they are coming through, if you did have any, I think we've answered a few as we went anyways. But there is that Facebook user group online if you guys did want to join the kind of side app community side. We do have that support library online as well. So we save all the webinars in there. There's heaps of videos and articles around how to do form building or heaps of other things in your account that you may need to know. And then you can also just always flick me an email at support@sideappro.co.nz if you've got any questions. But yeah, that basically takes us to the end. So if anyone has any questions now, just flick them through to me as an email and I'll be more than happy to have a chat from there. But I've also got a little survey. It'll take literally 2 seconds once you've finished this webinar. It's only got 4 questions in it, but if you could add some info into that, it would be super helpful for us. But yeah, that leaves us to the end of it. So I hope you guys have an awesome day and I will be able to chat with you all soon. Thanks, guys. Have a good one. Bye.